Greetings, Commanders. This is Commander Atlas Rand, and today I'm going to have a genuinely quick video for you guys because I just wanted to share a couple of tips and tricks relating to the latest expansion for the game that allows us to colonize and build our own stations in systems of which we are the architects. So, the first tip is we figured out what the closest distance is of how far you can place land-based stations. The answer to that question is 200 meters. Sorry, 200 kilometers. That 200 meters would be way too close. So 200 kilometers apart is too far to see the other system, but it makes it very convenient to build if you have more than one installation on the planet, to have those installations be very close to each other at just 200 meters apart. That means when you're building one, any excess parts, any components you bring could very easily be flown and dropped off at the other. And of course, when they're both fully operational, it doesn't matter which one you go to because you can always go to the other one and check missions or check what's for sale extremely quickly when it's only 200 kilometers away. And that's not to say that you can only have one that distance. You can have multiple, which are all a minimum of 200 kilometers away from each other. So that actually does work quite well. So that is number one. Number two, Commander Meccan and a few other folks came into the live stream today and mentioned that they noticed that when you hit 10 installations in a system, the cost of adding more installations goes up. So essentially, you have a soft limit, or not so much maybe a limit, but you have a point in time where everything starts to become more expensive to keep expanding the system. Now, Meccan says, based on his tests, that happens at when you build your 10th station. However, there's some questions as to whether that's actually the case or not, because it may not simply be that he built his 10th station, but that he built enough of a combination of stations that provided enough population density or something else that caused the costs to shoot up. So for the time being, put an asterisk next to this tip/trick, and because it could be that it's not actually 10, but it's actually that by the time you build your 10th one, that something else triggers the increase in price. And that increase in price is a doubling of the price for the tier 3 stations, the really large, cool ones that have a massive amount of ingredients to order. Well, in order to build those initially, you need to have built 6 of the normal large size stations, like the floating octagon that we see so many times, or that could certainly also be asteroids or ice asteroids as well. But it takes 6 points, which you get a point each from building those, in order to construct the giant one. However, once you've built over 10, or potentially some other event triggers that happens right around that point in time, then that cost goes up from 6 to 12. And that makes it a lot more difficult, if not impossible, to keep expanding smaller stations to accumulate those 12 points to build the tier 3 station. So something to keep in mind if you're planning on building a tier 3, make sure you build it as quickly as possible, and certainly before your 10th other station. And I would say also don't complete it right away. Wait to complete it, but make sure you plop it down so you can start building it as quickly as possible. So those are the two sort of quick hit observations. And now let me tell you about a tool that we can use to help us figure out what it is we're going to build in the station. it's really just a Google Doc, Google spreadsheet. But for those of you that are doing the same thing as I am, which is building stations in the system, this is going to be quite helpful. This was originally done by Daft Mav, and I will have a link to the share of the Google Doc in the description of the video. But I want to show it to you first, though. So let me pop up the screen. There we go. So that's the Google Doc. It looks nice. It's colorized. Colorized things are always good. But I wanted to quickly go through and show you what all it actually does. The downside of this thing is it is made for a 4K monitor. So as you can see, I'm moving the document right now. Yep. Still the same document. I'm not scrolling. I'm just moving the window within the capture area. So this thing is big. Okay, that's the end of the window. So now what I'm going to do for brevity here, I've got it blown up quite big right now. And see if I can shrink it up a little bit here for you guys. So if I do that, and then see if I do this. There we go. That looks better. And then I can make it bigger so y'all can see it better. There we go. Right? That works better. So basically, he did a good job of breaking all this stuff down. You've got different tiers of building, whether they're orbital or surface. You got startboard, installation, the types of buildings, blah, 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 blah. So all that stuff on the left. As you go through, it tells you what the name of the facility is if you want to select that particular one. But here's where it gets to the point where you can actually use this to decide what you want to build. It tells you what it costs to construct this thing. And you can see that things that have no cost are going to give you tier 2 points. Things that take tier 2 points will give you tier 3 points. The up top here, we had the giant or the tier 3 standalone stations. That would be the Oculus and the Orbis. And they take tier 3 points. They don't give you any other points in return. Also tells you whether these have a pad and what size pad. Tells you what the economy bonus is going to be for. Like, it tells you how much boost they give you. Like, for example, in population. It tells you that they can increase the max size of the system. And then right here, as we move in, it gives you all the modifiers. Now, all this stuff is available in-game, but it's nice to see it all in one graph. So you can see some of these really reduce the security of the system, but some of them also reduce the standard of living. So this is the asteroid base, this one that's a -4. People don't like living inside of asteroids for some reason. I don't understand why. I think it's nice and cozy. It's pretty cool, but some people don't like it. But it also gives you a development level of 7, whereas the normal base gives you only a development level of 3, but people do like living in them. So, gives you all the breakdowns, shows you the total amount of stuff you got to haul, and then it breaks it down into how many loads of 784, which of course is the maximum capacity for a for both of the hauling ships, I believe. So both the Cutter and the Type 9. Although the Cutter, I would definitely recommend using that. It can fly a lot faster when it's out of warp, has a much higher top speed, and you can put in additional armor into it. It's got two military slots to put things in as well. So if you can get it, and I've got a video that tells you how to get it, how to unlock it, I would definitely recommend using that. It breaks it down to how many trips with a smaller ship, and then of course what you're actually hauling, how many of each item. So this is very handy for calculating what all you're going to need. And these are all the different materials that, depending on what you're building, you're going to want to do. Now, if we scroll down here, we find something interesting, which says fastest tier 2 plus 1 point reward. 3 times small, fastest tier 3 2-point reward, and cheapest +8 development, and cheapest tier 3. So if we take and highlight these sections right here, and then scroll all the way to the left, what we find is surface settlement, industrial tier 1, Fontus, industrial tier 2, Gaia, depends on how you're supposed to pronounce it. Gaia, I don't know. I would probably say Gia, but that may not be correct. And then Phobos down here, which is a settlement of research biotiers. So if you're going to be doing something that I'm planning on doing, which is building a number of the large, possibly even the Oculus type large stations, well, you need to get a lot of tier 3 points to do that. And the fastest way to get tier 3 points is right here. It's this guy. It is the surface settlement industrial type 2 GR Gaia. That will give you, if you build it, it will give you 2 tier 3 points, which is pretty cool. Now, other things will do that as well. There's a number of them that will give you 2 tier 3 points. But they're all land-based. None of the in-space stuff, as far as I can tell, gives you... Nope, I don't think they do. Gives you... Yeah, those are all surface-based. These are all the in-space ones. They only give you 1 point. So if you want to get to having more tier 3 points, and you need, I believe, 6 of them to build the largest station installations. So you need to build basically 3 of these large industrial tier 2 settlements. And the other thing about them is they take up the least amount of resources. So you can look at this. It is 9 full loads of your hauler. So 9 loads will get you 2 tier 3 points. What if you were to go in here and you were to get to build a Coriolis or an asteroid base? Each of those will only give you 1 tier 3 point, and this is actually so ridiculous. And they would take 69 trips to pick up cargo, where this, we scroll back down here, over here, where this will give you double the amount of tier 3 points in 9 hauls. 9 versus 69. You did the math. All right, 69 is a funny number, sure. But you get it. So I'm sure this information could be derived independently just by looking at, again, game resources. It's certainly something that people will figure out over time as well, even without looking at this chart. But holy cow, somebody did a great job, somebody named Daft Mav, of compiling all this data so that now you know that if you wanted to do a lot of the really large bases, really large spaceports rather, not bases, then the fastest way to get those points is to actually build land settlements. And in specific, not just land planetary outposts, which is what I built. Those take a lot more resources, but to build surface settlements. And the settlements are the ones where you can go do on-foot missions as well. So that gets you an additional bonus of now having some of those in your system that you can go steal stuff from, or, kill somebody, or infiltrate, do whatever kind of missions you want at those settlements. And those settlements will now allow you to build the largest of the spaceports, or the large surface planetary ports, which incidentally, if we look at this, is the planetary port. It's the one that you need the tier 3 points to build. Takes just as much as the largest space stations. But let's scroll over to see how many resources it takes. It takes 276 loads, or 215,000 total commodities, 276,000 trips to build one of those large cities on the land. That's I mean, it's not, I guess, all that much more than the 2 large space stations, but it's even more than space stations. And as you all know, if you've done it, every time you have to land on the planet itself, it's just an extra long delay. Everything takes a lot longer than dropping it off in space. Uh, Even leaving the atmosphere, sure, it doesn't take that long, but it's distance that you wouldn't otherwise have to worry about. And then what if the city is on the wrong side of the planet? If it's facing away from where your destination is, well, now you got to fly around the planet. So, yeah, big pain in the butt factor there. I don't know that I'm ever going to build one of the large cities on the planet for that reason. It is just so much work. 276 round trips of hauling materials there. Double that number if you use a carrier, guys. So if you are packing everything into a carrier and then bringing it in, you are literally going to be doubling that number. You're going to have over 500 flights, half to the carrier, half from the carrier. And look at the total amount of commodities, 215,000. Well, how much do your carrier hold? Well, if it's totally empty, 25,000, but it's probably not totally empty. You probably used up at least 5,000 for services. So 20,000. That is like 11 carrier loads, 11 full carriers worth of materials just to build one of the large cities in the ground. Holy cow! Yeah, I mean, I will go to the trouble of building a space station because it's more convenient for me and everybody else. That is that size. I am not building a city that size. Oh man. Anyway, just wanted to share this with you. This truly is a short video compared to most of my other videos, but you now see what I'm talking about. There's also other info in here, like you can create shopping lists of information. You can look at the stats of this stuff. So just different views of the same data, basically. And you can even select here, if I can get it to work. Sometimes unavailable heavy collaborator use. Okay. So if you click on that, it's not working. Well, it was working for me earlier, but you can essentially select what all you're going to build, and it'll show you the total amount of materials that you need to bring in. So link will be in video description. See you on the next one.